Welcome to the Sober Nation FM podcast, where we're putting recovery on the map. I'm your host, Jonathan Sylvester. This show is brought to you by Sobriety Engine. Do you want to take your recovery to the next level? Do you want more support, community, and fellowship? Sobriety Engine is an incredible community of men and women supporting each other in their recovery. You can get a ton of great tips, resources, and guidance to help you succeed in recovery and in life. Visit sobrietyengine.com to join today. Sober Nation FM is also brought to you by Recover Health. If you're ready to get fit and start living a healthier lifestyle, all while supporting your sobriety, then you can learn more about having me as your own personal fitness and nutrition coach at rcvrhealth.com. And whether you're listening to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watching on YouTube, please share this with your friends. Follow, subscribe, and leave a review. Nation, let's hop right into today's episode. Today, I'll be speaking with the founder of Sands Bar, an alcohol-free bar based in Austin, Texas. Let's welcome to the show, Chris Marshall. Thanks for coming on with me, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me back on, Jonathan.
Absolutely. So I'd like for you to share with us all about Sands Bar and what you're doing these days during the pandemic. But first, could you tell us a little bit about what was going on before you got sober and how you actually found your way into recovery?
Yeah. So I started drinking when I was 16. And a big part of the reason why I started drinking in the first place was because I really wanted to connect with my friends. I had pretty much made a pledge not to drink until I was about 18. And then I just saw my friends drinking and kind of fell into that social pressure, and I wanted to fit in, so I started drinking. And very quickly into my drinking career, I realized that I was not handling or processing alcohol the same way other people were, and I was almost instantly self-medicating anxiety and depression. And so for me, I didn't drink a long time because I drank so intensely. It's like a fire that burns really rapidly. And I made it through some college before my drinking just took over everything. Quit school, went to rehab a few times, and then I got sober at 23. And getting sober at 23 put me in a really weird place because I was still developing as a young person.
Yeah.
And I thought my life was over, man. The second I got sober, I was like, hey, this is a trade-off. Like, I get to live, but my life's gonna suck now.
Wow.
And I was just prepared for that. I was prepared for a life that just was not fun, didn't have any enjoyment, didn't have any fulfillment in it. I was just ready to just exist for the next, 30 or 40 years.
Wow.
So, I mean, that's the short version of how I got sober. Was just I found that I could not continue to drink alcohol. And most importantly, the thing that I wanted most was to connect with people, and I couldn't do that when I was drinking. So that was another big reason why I stopped. I wasn't even able to socialize the way I wanted to.
Wow. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. I want to rewind to the first thing you said. I don't think I asked you this the last time we spoke. You said that you had basically made a pledge not to drink until you were 18. So did you already have an idea that maybe this wouldn't turn out too well when you started drinking? Like what was the pledge all about?
Well, I mean, it was something that I came up with for myself. Like I said, this was when I was maybe 14, 13 maybe.
Sure.
I was like, I'm not going to drink until I'm an adult. 18. So I'm 18.
Yeah.
Because I just believed that I knew how serious it was. I had seen it ruin and kind of hurt other people. And so I knew that alcohol, I knew what it was. It wasn't a surprise to me that alcohol had this ability to destroy.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was part of the reason is that, you know what, I think I need to wait until I'm 18. Like, of course, at 13, you think 18 is like a grown person.
Right. Yeah.
Little did I know.
Yeah.
Right. But, at that time I was like, I'm going to do this because I think at 18, I can make a decision to not drink or to choose to drink or not. And, that went out the window as soon as I saw my friends drinking. Wow. And I saw them having a good time. And I saw that was kind of the currency in high school was drinking. And I was like, oh man, like, oh well, like if this is what I have to give up, then that's a small sacrifice because I want to belong to these people so badly.
Yeah. Well, and we'll talk a little bit more about connection here in a minute, I'm sure. But so what happened? So you said you got sober at 23. Did you end up going to treatment, or what exactly did that look like?
Yeah, so I was in a fraternity. I was going to school in San Antonio. I was in a fraternity, and even my fraternity brothers were like, "You're drinking way too much, man. Like, this is, yes, we're drinking all day, floating the river and drinking all night, but you're drinking in the morning. Like, you're drinking the empties after a party. Like,
Okay.
this
Yeah.
is not, like, and they, I mean, and I have to say that for being in that culture at that time,
Hmm.
that was exceedingly insightful for some of them to like, hey, you have a problem.
Wow.
You are not drinking like the rest of us. And they were drinking just as much, and they were maybe even engaging in other substances, right? Which
Yeah.
I wasn't even engaging in that part
But
all the
they could
time.
see
I was
you had
still
a problem.
they're like, oh no, like look, we
Yeah.
may be snorting coke, but like
Right. Right.
you got a problem if
Yeah.
you
You're the one with the problem.
and it was yeah, and I knew that they were right. Like
Mm.
I knew from the start that alcohol and I were not meant to be together. I knew that. I knew that from the second time I drank and I got a DUI. I flipped my mom's car through an intersection. The second time I drank ever in life, I knew that I did not handle alcohol the same way that other people did. And so it was just all these kind of signals pointing me in this like singular direction that your life is not going to include alcohol in it. And I just spent, that 5 or 6 years of my life accepting that truth because I knew it from the start.
Yeah. So you go to treatment, and I think, like we spoke before, you got involved in a 12-step program. And then I think you
Yeah.
went back and you actually, I know that a big part of your recovery is you went back and you actually worked at the treatment center is it the same treatment center that you went through, or I can't recall?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I got sober at 23, so I went to the right step. We talked about the right step
Right,
last
right,
time,
right.
I think.
Yeah.
And I checked myself out of the right step, and I went. I bounced
Graduated.
around.
You graduated.
Yeah, graduated. But what I eventually ended up doing was the last place I went to was West Oaks Hospital in Houston,
Right, right.
and
Okay.
that was much more mental health focused.
Sure.
And that was the first time someone ever told me like, you're self medicating. That's what this is.
Mm.
And I didn't. And for some reason, that just stuck. That message just like, oh, wait a second, I am self medicating because I've been dealing with anxiety and social anxiety before I ever had a drop of alcohol, and it made so much sense why there was such a wildfire in my life around alcohol because it was the thing I thought that would put the anxiety out, but I didn't know it was gasoline.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
like I thought it was gonna put the fire out, so just keep throwing this gasoline on it, hoping that it's gonna like make it better. And it's making it worse, and I don't know what else to do, so I keep doing what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I heard that. And the special thing that happened there was that I had a group of people on this alumni group at West
Okay.
Oaks,
Yeah.
and they invited me out every single Friday, and they said, "Hey, we want you to come out. We want you to feel a part of this thing." And I don't think if I had that, I would be where I'm at today.
Mm.
I really think that something about having that in my first year of sobriety, where people were insistent that I create community, insistent that I belong somewhere, and I feel like I belong somewhere. I think that set up a whole other trajectory I had in my life because that became how I understood sobriety. I see sobriety through that lens of community and connection more than anything else.
Yeah. No, I love that, man. And I had a similar experience. I think, in fact, I know that, going through the right step, like their alumni, for instance, the treatment center I went through, getting involved, there wasn't even an alumni, I was involved in kind of getting that started and everything. But I think some people might equate it to this type of connection to being involved in a home group or something like that, which I was doing as well. But I think you're right. Like one thing that really changed for me, there were people that I would see at meetings and stuff, and that was really cool. But then there were people that I would go out and actually do stuff with.
Hmm.
And I know, and I think that's kind of what you're getting at, is like actually taking some of these connections outside of, uh, you know, outside of directly like whatever the recovery program is that you're involved in. And even if it's just going to eat or something like that, I mean, you get to like actually have real, relationships and other conversations with these people too, which I think is so cool. So we're talking so much about connection. And I know that that's a big part of really how the Sands Bar got started. So, how did all of this start? I mean, you've gotten a ton of recognition, from major news outlets and shows, and man, there's just been so much cool. Even in the time that I've known you, there's been so much cool stuff going on. You guys did like a nationwide pop up tour. How did this get started, and who is Sands Bar really for?
Hmm. I mean, how this got started and where it's at today has nothing to do with Chris. I mean, it has absolutely, I could not have planned, imagined. I get contacted from people all the time who have been established in business, and they're like, who is your media person? Who are you? Can we get a copy of your press release? Because we want to understand how you're getting all this press. And honestly, I don't know. It's just the universe. Like, I literally do nothing. I don't send out a single press release. I've never sent out a press release. If media contacts me, that's it. Like, seriously. Um, I think that that's the case because this is about community, and this is a community built thing. I may be the face of it. I may have had the initial idea, but this has really been an organic process that has come together because people um, have walked alongside me, not even behind me, but alongside me to build this idea that you can have a safe, sober, and inclusive environment without alcohol. And that is the product. The product isn't the drink. The product isn't the music or the speakers that we offer. It's not even the great food that we offer. It really is about creating those connections. And I think that is what makes Sandspar, the brand, very unique because there's very few products on the market or services on the market that focus exclusively on developing community as a business model.
Hmm, that's really awesome. Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, and I think the fact that you've never put out, you're not to say you're not promoting it, but you're not putting out like press releases. You don't have some, big media organization behind you, just pumping stuff out there. I mean, I think that really says to me that there is this connection that's being offered, but also that there's such a need for this. So prior to, because things are different now, obviously, and I'm sure you guys have been closed down for a while, like most businesses have. But let's rewind prior to COVID-19. I mean, what would I expect if I'm walking in to Sands Bar one night?
Man, that seems like a lifetime ago. I
I'm,
mean,
I'm taking
even
you
as I'm
back,
like,
man. Taking you back.
even it feels like you're talking about the 90s or something. Like, it feels so far removed from like where we are today.
Yeah.
Actually, I went up to the bar yesterday to just kind of look at things and start to look at how we can reopen.
Okay.
Which I think we'll probably look at next month, if not July. Like, I'm serious about the safety thing. But
Yeah.
anyways, when you walk into Sands Bar, I think the first thing that you notice is that it is a bar because it's on a row of bars, like usually very bustling, busy, loud, noisy bars. And then there's this corner lot with this beautiful door, red door, and then this patio space. And you're just like, this is the biggest, because it is the biggest spot on that corner. Like, this has to be the best bar. And so you walk in, and I think the energy is just different.
Hmm.
And when people walk into Sands Bar, even if they've been, you know, enjoying a few alcoholic beverages and they're intoxicated, they'll walk in and they'll just kind of like, this something is what's going on here? Usually that's the first hit someone says is, what is going on here? because even if they're intoxicated, they can sense that there's something special. I mean, it gives me chills every time, because I've never met one person to walk in a Sands bar, not one, and they've had a negative response to what this is.
I get what you're
saying. They
saying.
may be disappointed.
Yeah. They're not walking in like, oh, this is whack. They're walking in like, man, tell me what's going on here. Like, tell me more about this. Where am I?
Right. Like, where am I? Right. And so I think that's the first thing people notice, is that this whole idea that it feels different. And even when people are disappointed, some people will make it all the way to the bar and they'll order a drink and they'll be like, wait a second, there's no alcohol. Even then, they're like, okay, that's not what I was looking for, but they're never mad about it. They're always like, oh, well, you know what? I'll stay for a drink. And people stay and have they sober up, basically, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's the first thing you notice. The second thing you notice is that everything in that environment has been engineered for connection. And what I mean by that is that the lighting is not too dark. It's not a, dark nightclub where you can't see your hand in front of your face.
Right.
It's softly lit. The music is never above a certain decibel so that people can really hear each other. I do like the idea of there being music playing, and I think it kind of breaks a little bit of the tension.
For sure.
But I never want to distract. And so I always tell musicians, if you're going to play here, I'm pay you, but you have to play as an addition to the atmosphere, not as the main attraction. And if you're not cool with that, there's another stage you can play on. And when people said, like, I like to be seen. And I'm like, it's not that, we don't want you to be seen. It's that the most important thing here, more important than you or me or my bartenders or anything else, is that people that need to connect. And everything takes second place to that goal. That is the goal of the night, is that everyone finds something to celebrate and finds connection in those nights that we're open.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. So I know that obviously there's a need for something like this, right? I think there's a need, just like you and I spoke about before a little bit, like there's really not a lot of places for people in recovery to go necessarily, besides maybe some recovery meetings or something like that. But I think that also, like you've said, this is a place for people, whether they're in recovery or not. And they can just come in and, like, if you're in recovery, cool, welcome. If you're not, cool, welcome, and everyone can kind of be in this, this safe environment together and really connect. But I think from a business standpoint, there's been this big shift more recently, right? And I don't know if you can really talk about, I know you had some kind of secret projects going on a while back, but there are.
That's true, yeah.
There are more. So I don't know if you can talk about this quite yet, but I know there are more alcohol companies that are looking at non-alcoholic beverages and different things like that. So I don't know. It seems like this is all good timing too, right?
You know what? It's great timing. Prior to this COVID-19, we were seeing alcohol sales dramatically declining in the United States.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in free fall. And liquor companies have been, and I think still probably will be, looking for ways to diversify their portfolio. And so a lot of them are investing in non-alcoholic spirits. There's a couple on the market that are really interesting products, non-alcoholic beers and wines. They're really trying to figure out how to bridge this gap between people who drink and people who know better. Like, they're trying to figure out, like, how do we make it so that we can reach all these people and still retain a lot of our old customers.
Right.
And that's where I think Sands Bar is special, is that we really look at the entire spectrum of kind of your relationship with alcohol. I am in recovery. I have no problem saying I'm in recovery. I have no problem saying that I'm sober. Sober is not a dirty word. But we also have people who come in and they are sober curious, or they may still be drinkers. Many times we've had people come in and they will stop at Sam's Bar to meet their friends for the night, have some zero proof cocktails, which is what we call our mocktails, and then go out and drink with their friends. And that is A-okay with us, right? Because the idea is not that we're on some crusade to strike everyone sober. That's not what I want to do. I live my own personal core beliefs around alcohol, and I encourage everyone to know theirs and live theirs to the fullest. That's it. And so I think we serve everyone. I really do.
That's awesome. So, well, you just mentioned, we can't talk about what you've been up to or what's going on with Sans Bar without talking about, COVID-19 and this quarantine that we've all been under. And look, man, I think it's smart that you guys are being super safe with this. And, even though here in Texas, like we're kind of opening up a little quicker than everyone else. And I think things are a little different here than they are in other parts of the country. I think we do have to take that into account. But all that being said, we are where we are. I think that it is a crazy thing. I guess I hadn't thought about this much until you just said it. Like, unfortunately, this was like the thing that alcohol companies were just waiting for. It was like their sales were in free fall. They were having to look at ways to, get their customers back that weren't drinking as much, whether they're sober or not. I think a lot of people are just realizing they don't like drinking as much as they used to. And, we're hearing about just so many people struggling, drinking a lot more, during the quarantine, overdoses, all kinds of stuff. Why do you think people are drinking more during the quarantine? Like, why do you think that is?
Well, first of all, I think people are drinking more because it is the quickest, easiest way to change the way you feel. And I think that we are so used to changing the way we feel that we just we grab the closest thing. And then I think it was a lot of brilliant marketing, frankly. I think all these liquor companies got with bar and restaurants and said, okay, making alcohol to go, which has been a very hard thing to implement, let's use a pandemic as an opportunity to make that a normal thing.
Yeah.
To make that a normal thing, and then let's hide under the guise of, well, we are an essential service because alcoholics couldn't survive without liquor stores or getting a margarita to go at a Mexican restaurant. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know about you, Jonathan, but when I was near the end, I wasn't thinking about the $20 margarita, at a Mexican restaurant. No. I was drinking mouthwash and anything else I could, Like, I just it's absurd that they used this idea of them being essential or this service being necessary for restaurants who serve alcohol to go.
Right.
All in an attempt to make them to rivet themselves to this crisis and to help people get through a tough situation. I think it's irresponsible. I think as an industry, they're going to get a big backlash because, like you said, not just here in Texas, but in most of the states, people are returning back to life, and they're going to find out that the way that they were coping with alcohol is insufficient. So to answer your question, I think we're drinking more because we don't know what else to do. We don't have any other tools to cope with it, and I think it's going to create a real problem once we have to return back to normal life.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And it is really disappointing. I know that in some states, for instance, where, marijuana is legal, it was like the dispensaries and liquor stores were essential, but anything recovery related, like 12-step meetings and stuff like that, were closed, and it's just, I mean, gosh, it's just, it's almost like the perfect storm for people that are still out there and suffering, with any kind of alcoholism or addiction issues or anything even more than that. I mean, the fact is that normal people are struggling with mental, isolation and mental health issues. Like, of course, especially people, I'll just tell you, like, and I think we're going to talk about this here in a minute with what you guys have been doing with, some virtual events. But, I've been on a lot of Zoom meetings, for instance, lately, like a lot of us have. And what I hear is the people that are having a tough time, like, I guess I was thinking at first it would just be like, people that haven't found recovery yet, people that are new to recovery. But it's really, I mean, I've just heard across the board, it's people that are not in recovery yet, it's people that are new, it's people that have been, sober for 20 years. It's everyone. So, I mean, we really do have to make sure right now that we're using these tools that we've been given for the people that have them, and
Mhm.
yeah. So I want to ask you about those virtual events that you guys have been doing. Like, how have you restructured Sandsbar in response to all of this?
Um, so I when this started, I did not want to have any kind of online virtual anything. I didn't. I'm not a fan of it. I suck at technology. Like I don't know how I got to be a 60-year-old man like in the last 6 months, but apparently I just can't do technology anymore. Shout out to all the 60-year-old plus adults who can do technology because that's not me. Yeah, I just man, I did not want to do it, but the more I realized that there was still a need out there, the more I got over, frankly, my own hurt over not being able to go out on the road. I mean, we had a 15 city tour planned this year, man. We had hit 6 cities in the United States. We were going, man. I had Chicago, New Orleans, and Houston planned. I was so excited to do like my homecoming tour in Houston. And it sucked, man. It hurt a lot to leave those plans on the back burner for now. But I'm really proud of what we created in a digital form because I feel like it really creates that feeling of being somewhere else, especially when you're stuck at home. I think it's important to create, a different way of being, right? No matter what it looks like. And I think that's the other reason why we're drinking a lot more too at home is that people miss celebration. And I
Mm.
think that when you take out celebration from someone's life, they're looking to celebrate any way that they can. So every time they finish work, it's time to pour a drink because that's how they celebrate. That's how they are marking time in quarantine. So for sober people, we want to create celebration. We want to create fun. And that's what these events have been about. So the series that we're doing online is called Sandsbar Where You Are. And it was an idea I actually had 2 years ago when I was getting started with this kind of national tour stuff. It was the idea that you could have this experience that I created in Austin wherever you are. And little did I know we were going to be in a pandemic and everyone's going to be stuck at home. So it's going to be literally where you are. And yeah, we host these meetings on Facebook, or these gatherings on Facebook. I've done some private kind of mocktail classes on Zoom. And the idea is that we just take our day and we just break it up with something fun and interesting. And sometimes that's making a drink together, sometimes that's just talking. But the first Stay Inspired Where You Are event included all these sober influencers, had some live music from sober people, had me making drinks, and it was a success. And people really liked it. And then you could get these little kits sent to your home, and these kits had everything you needed to make the drink and make it a special night. And so we're just really excited about those kind of events that we'll be offering, even when I think life returns to normal. We'll still have those opportunities.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I no, and I hear you, man. I mean, some people, I still like in some of these meetings I've been in, like I still hear people saying, like, I did not think I was going to like doing anything online through Zoom, not cool with technology. But again, like, this is where we are. And I think we're either going to, especially again, for people in recovery, like we're either going to adapt and figure this out. And I love how you're describing that, like figure out a way to celebrate life, or not. And I don't want to know what the or not part looks like, because I have a pretty good idea of where that would take me. So that's pretty awesome, man. So it sounds like again, you're recreating this community that you created at Sands Bar online. So I just want to ask, kind of looking ahead here, do you see things getting rolling again in terms of the nationwide tour, or what's kind of the rough plan there, do you think?
Yeah, so the rough plan is to continue doing the online events. So in June 19th, actually, we'll do Sands Bar Where You Are. And it's going to be a Pride celebration. So we're going to, have these great Pride celebration kids. We're going to have drag queen karaoke. We're going to have some of the biggest, leaders and movers and shakers in the LGBTQ plus community on a panel. It's going to be a night where you can make a drink with us and have fun with us. And again, it's about feeling that you're at a Pride celebration, but you're not, right? This is bringing the experience to you with some top-notch level people, and it's absolutely free to attend, because we don't want to ever create that block between people having access to this event. So completely free event. And then going forward, I think the plan is going to be to look at opening Sands Bar Austin at a limited capacity mid-June. And then I think, and this is just me kind of just thinking, is that from July to maybe October, September, October, you're going to have maybe 2 or 3 months where things are going to look normal. And in that time, I think we're going to probably end up doing a reduced tour. So instead of hitting some of the smaller markets, which I was really excited about, I think we're going to just stick to the big markets. Hit up your Chicago, Boston, LA.
Don't forget Houston. Don't forget Houston.
No, Houston is happening, man. Oh, I had the perfect venue, man. It was right downtown. I was so excited about Houston because I was going to break it up into 2 nights, or the same night, but 2. One was just like, if you know Chris, and you want to like party with Chris. And then it was going to be like the Sands Bar event. If you're, new to the Sands Bar concept, I was going to have we're going to do it. And so those are the 2, 3 cities that I think you're going to end up being at. Definitely New York. Gotta go to New York again. It'll be a condensed version of what we're going to offer. And then I think by October, we'll probably see this thing kind of creep back up again, or things just shutting down again. And we're always going to follow the CDC regulations ×4. Sure. As great as this is, and as much as I love making money being a sober bar owner and being on the road, nothing is worth anyone even feeling unsafe.
Yeah.
And that is what I most care about, is that I made a commitment to myself to create a safe space, and it must feel safe for everyone, including myself. I have to be able to come home and feel safe with my children at home. So that's kind of the plan.
That's awesome. Well, man, I can't wait to, I was so excited about you coming to Houston and us finally getting to meet. So I'll be looking forward to that. And I know one of these days I'll make it up to Austin to check out the Sands Bar in person. One thing I really like to, ask all of our guests, and this is a changing thing again with everything that's going on. And what does your recovery look like today, and what do you do to maintain and grow your sobriety, would you say?
Yeah, so I just celebrated 13 years of sobriety in February.
That's awesome.
Oh man, it was a very special moment because I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, doing an event that night that I celebrated my 13 years sober. And these people didn't know me, and they bought me a cake, and it was really, really cool. And so I am really this year focused on growth, because I need to continue to expand and enlarge my spiritual territory. That's got to be something that I'm looking at And I've been doing that by really digging into my spiritual practice. And I've always had a spiritual practice, but this time, this year, this experience has really caused me to question and dig. And like when you almost have a project done and you just like, nah, I don't want, like, I basically done that. I basically kind of pulled it apart and said, okay, how can I build up piece by piece in prayer, meditation, connection with others, connection with my wife and my children, in each of these domains in my life, how can I make these fit in a better way? How can I spend more time with, with the universe and the way that I experience, a higher power? I've really spent a lot of time this year doing that. And it's been difficult. It's been challenging, but that's really how I do it. And then I lived that through going to virtual meetings and connecting with my sponsor and talking to men in recovery. And I've really, again, this year been focusing on connecting with men of integrity, because that is such a thing that has been an issue for me in recovery, where I just don't find that many men of integrity. I hear a lot of men talking about it, but I haven't been to a strictly men's meeting in a very long time in Austin, because I just got so disgusted about the way that men were talking when women weren't present. And I just really have struggled with that. And so that's something I've been working with, finding a group of men here in Austin who are really about it all the time, who really walk the walk and talk the talk, and aren't just saying it because it's convenient, or because it's that kind of false humility. So yeah, man, it's been quite a journey. Even in this time of quarantine, it's been an incredible experience.
Yeah, no, I really like that. I know one thing for me personally, and I've heard a lot of people talking about, is just this idea of, and I think this is something we should always be doing, because this is really where it all started, but getting back to basics, and really, because, for instance, let's see, 2 weeks ago or 15 days ago now, I celebrated 7 years, and, and it's amazing. Like, we have all these gifts in our life now, right? And all these things that we got because of the basic things that we were doing initially. And I think that sometimes, a good or bad issue may come up in my life, and I try to like reinvent the wheel. And I think that I need to do something different now because I have 7 years sober and life's different. But no, the truth is like, the basic stuff works, and so I know for me, it's been really important for me
Absolutely.
to hear other people say that too, and say a lot of the things that you're saying. I think that right now for me as well, I haven't been doing as much as I'd like, in all honesty, but just really connecting spiritually, because man, like, most of us, even still now, with some stuff opening up, like, we've got the time, not to say I'm not busy, but we all have some extra time on our hands. And I don't think we can go wrong with, working on our spiritual life a little bit. So I want to ask, before we wrap up, Chris, if there is one piece of advice that you'd like to share with the Sober Nation.
Yeah. I encourage everyone to, yes, keep it simple. The basics and the fundamentals of recovery will always be the fundamentals. Those are never going to change. And those things that you did in those very first days of your kind of lifestyle change or sobriety matter more than anything. And I think that's all you ever do, is just refine those things. I heard someone say, at 13 years, I don't have any more sobriety than someone with 13 days. I just pick up the tools faster, right? They're the same tools, I just pick them up faster. But if I had a piece of advice to give to anyone listening, I would say, I would challenge them to look for ways to celebrate what is going right in their lives. I really am starting to hone in on this kind of personal philosophy that celebration is more important than we think it is. It is necessary. Yes, you get a little hit of dopamine every time you get a little chip in a meeting. But what if we subdivided that, right? What if we looked at all the different ways we can celebrate the smallest things and the smallest wins and the smallest victories? And it's just something that I've really been thinking about lately is how often do I celebrate? Because celebration is really gratitude outwardly, right? It's the outward expression of gratitude. And gratitude, we already know, is a very powerful thing. So I don't know, man. I've just been really meditating on this idea that gratitude and celebration are so important, and we don't talk enough about it in the rooms, definitely, because we think celebration and party, and those aren't the same things.
Right.
So I would really, encourage you, especially in this time, if you're still at home or if you have to return to, back to a quarantine existence, to find ways to celebrate things large and small, because celebration is gratitude expressed outward. It is the outward expression of an inner gratitude. So, that's it, man.
That's awesome, Chris. That's really great advice. And I love how you said big and small, because I think that, if anyone out there listening is anything like me, I think I tend to kind of brush off some of the wins, if you will, that I have in my life that might be little things. And, I kind of crap on them, and I just say like, oh, that's not, I could do better. That's not that big of a deal. But I think it is important that we figure out, again, I really love how you're describing this, a way to celebrate that. And that's just awesome advice. And I'm so glad that you could be here with us today. So you can learn more about Sandsbar and their virtual events by visiting thesandsbar.com. Thanks again for coming on the show, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jonathan. I appreciate it.
Be sure to check out the show notes for all the info from today's episode. Sober Nation FM is brought to you by Sobriety Engine. Sobriety Engine is a free online community of men and women supporting each other in their recovery. Visit sobrietyengine.com to join today. This show is also brought to you by Recover Health. If you're ready to get fit and start living a healthier lifestyle while supporting your sobriety, you can learn more about having me as your own personal fitness and nutrition coach at rcvrhealth.com. And again, whether you're listening to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watching on YouTube, please share this with your friends, follow, subscribe, and leave us a review. Nation, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.